Welcome to our first podcast about,
Various topics.
like, for example.
I know, I just want you to be annoyed by that. Okay, so welcome to our first podcast with each other. This is Pierre, I'm Joe, and
Hello,
this
Pierre.
is... So what we're going to discuss is various topics that we've accumulated over the last week or so, or few days, or hours. And I don't know how that's going to go. I haven't done a podcast in quite a long time. I'm going to make sure I edit this because otherwise there's going to be a lot of nothing. Edit that out. So, we are outside, beautiful south of France. We've got two different angles for you, so it's all professional. I've got some topics that I've been thinking about during this whole crazy time with the world and all that, and various things happening within me, and I thought maybe you've also got some things you might want to share or talk about, or
Why not?
yeah, so that's why we're kind of here to talk about it. So it's a bit tricky for me to jump straight into it. I don't know whether you want to start talking or whether I should.
Pick a topic and
Pick a
we can
topic.
exchange on it.
Okay, well, what's been on your mind? What's on your mind right now?
Quiet life in this particular moment of period of paralyzed society.
Polarized.
Paralyzed?
Oh, paralyzed. Yeah.
Sorry. Where we can feel the fear of the collective consciousness of humanity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, here now, I feel the nature, the silence, it's pretty nice actually.
Yeah, the birds in the background is formidable, as they say in French.
What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Well, I've had a bunch of thoughts I've been writing down in my diary here. Because I had a walk with my dad yesterday. It was a bit of a grey day, and we were heading towards the forest just to be outside in nature for a bit. Because there's a lot of restrictions on where you can go at the moment in France with this whole lockdown. And my dad and I were discussing various feelings that we were having. So I was contemplating that about a year and a half ago I had this operation, which was to fix a hernia, and I've already discussed it before a lot in various different videos, but sometimes it still troubles me what the surgery sort of impacts on the body, and it sort of affects me still day to day, depending on what I'm doing physically, I suppose. Because you think my thoughts were, okay, I've gone to the doctor, I've fixed what I wanted, I'm gonna be fine. It's been about a year and a half later, and it still hasn't quite settled. It's like I've got new scars, new muscles which have formed around the scars, and it sometimes causes pain for me. And one of the things about this whole thing is that it's me trying to discover a lot about myself and where it's all going, and one of the various things is that I think about my vulnerability. So being a man or a guy, we don't really open up with our feelings very often. unless it's with a loved one, like a family member or a partner or something like that. So we don't really share how we're truly feeling about something, and something I don't do for the One Good Road or the show, whatever you want to call it. I don't really share too much of the personal detail, because people aren't really looking for that, I guess. Sometimes they're not really looking for the weaknesses or the honesty, and a lot of stuff online is all fake, and it just doesn't feel real anymore to me personally. I guess I just don't connect with a lot of it, and I can tell when someone's not telling the truth. You can just see it with what they're saying, and so it's been I'm kind of like diverging a lot, but I've been on a journey of that, and how my physical attributes are relating to how I'm feeling emotionally and what I'm thinking about, and it's quite strange how it all connects together. And been listening to various podcasts about how to heal the body, and
So can you remind me when this hernia happened? And how?
Well, I think it came from when I was touring in Australia. I was on a bike touring across the whole continent, big journey, several different videos about that, and I did that for about 3 months, and prior to that, years of other traveling, mainly by bike. And because I didn't do, I think, any other forms of exercise or variety, I was mainly just doing one thing all the time, every day. Get on the bike, ride, get on the bike, ride, and just keep doing that. When I arrived on the West Coast and I lived in the city of Perth for about 6 months, I then was playing on like the monkey bars or the jungle gym at the on a playground thing, and then about a week later I was like, what's this weird lump just above my groin? It was really strange, and then I got it checked several times, and I sort of dealt with like 3 or 4 months of dealing with living with a hernia. I've had one before when I was younger, actually. When I was about 4, I had a hernia as well. So some people just get it more than others, I guess. Maybe it's just part of what I've got. So I got it from that, and it impacted my work because I was working in the bike shop then, and I was planning other touring adventures, and the universe just changed all of that. So instead of having everything planned out, it took all my plans and threw them in the garbage, and I started from scratch. And that's what I've been doing for the last year, is rebuilding what I want to do with my life, I think.
And how did you feel when you had this hernia feeling in your body? What was your emotion?
Like there was something wrong with me, and it's like you want desperately to fix. Like it felt like there was a knot, or there was an inflammation. That's the feelings that the body gives off, but then that's connected with me feeling not normal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And at first, did you know that was an hernia, or did you just feel something and you didn't know what it was?
I just felt something and I didn't know what it was, and then later on they said, you've got a very small hernia. So it wasn't even that big of a deal, but it still played on my mind that there's something wrong with me. And every time I have a shower, I felt like it just didn't look right, and I'm like, what is this? And it just felt like there was something wrong with me.
And when you had the surgery, how did you feel after that?
A lot of pain for the first week. It made me think about, I was traveling with a friend in Canada, and we got into a car accident. Well, she did, actually. And she ended up in hospital via this car that hit her while we were on the road traveling in Canada on our bikes. And she went through a lot of pain. for several weeks while I was there trying to sort of look after her, or whatever you want to describe it as. And while I was in the hospital, let's skip ahead, and I'm in Australia, just had my operation on something completely different. I had a lot of pain, and I'm sitting in the bed, and I can't even like get up and go to the bathroom. Like, it's a big deal just to do that. It was interesting to experience that in being immobile. So that really made me realize how my friend was dealing with that, and how other people feel when they are hospitalized. I guess that's the word, or disabled.
You felt that you were vulnerable.
Yeah, everything connects to that vulnerability, which is interesting. And I was part of a men's group back in California where we sat in a circle with about 10 other guys, and ranging from like down to 16 years old all the way up to like 70s, and everyone's sharing about how they feel. And it's one by one, so you get like a talking stick, and we're all men, so we're all just talking, listening. And whenever you're listening, you're not interrupting the person and stuff. And that was very enlightening. That as a male, you're always seen as like the macho type, to be big and strong, and there's nothing that can break me. But I think it's quite an image to keep on pursuing. And actually, we're very much masculine and maybe feminine or something. I don't know, because it's a balance, really.
Because we have emotions as well.
Yeah, it's not like we're
just try to
a brick
hide
wall.
it more than female. Yeah.
Well, I think as a female, I don't know, but as a female, maybe they just express it in a totally different way, with different peers in groups. And sometimes I'm thinking, God, you guys are very dramatic about certain things. But on the other hand, we don't really express to one another. We're just like, yeah, you're good. And that's it. That's all conversation is, you know? It's not really more than that. It's just like, let's have a beer. You know, it's usually very simple is what I'm trying to say. It's not very much dialogue or explanation or anything. So yeah, that's been a current theme at the moment.
And how now, here, do you feel about your body system and your vulnerability? How is it today?
Today it's good. It sort of goes in waves of like moments of heavy anxiety, and one moment I feel like it's all crashing down on me, and there's nothing going right, and that's frustrating, and you build up all of this fear. So fear is another thing. I mean, I was thinking how fear protects me in a way, keeps me safe, but on the other hand, if I give it all of my control, I let it take the wheel, so to speak, and it's driving everywhere, and I don't have any say in how I feel. And I don't know, I've been listening to like these affirmations recently, and they're all about positive thinking and positive words, and trying to keep everything in balance. Because the more in balance and centered we are, the better we are at any decisions that we make. If we're stressed out, then we just don't make very good decisions, and we overthink everything. It's been all connected with that as well. But it's funny, this isolation makes me able to think even more than I usually do. Do any stories and feelings that I'm saying, do they bring up stories that you want to share, or anything that comes to mind?
Not especially, but
No?
I think it's interesting how we understand more how humans is processing things, going through a story like that. Because before this hernia thing, you had like the control of your life, and you didn't have fear about your body because it was working well. and then
I was naive, actually, to the
and
point.
after that, you had sort of losing control because your body is telling you something, but you can't. I mean, heal it like just magic stick. Yeah, it's a process, and then within this process, it's vulnerability and learn about the fear and who you are and stuff like that. So it's very interesting how this disease bring you to think about life, think about yourself, think about who you are more maybe than before. So
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I just was doing whatever came to mind, no matter what the consequences were. And as you get older, it's like each decision that you make, it does impact your future. I'm already feeling right now that we should do this style of like talking and recording more.
yeah,
I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah,
I haven't even said like that much, and it's already like really interesting.
yeah. And maybe later on we can add more people and or different people and just have a different share.
That's a good
moment.
point. I still don't want it to feel like I have to worry about everything that I am doing.
So you mean you don't want to be catched by this worry thing about your body and the
Well, you sort of like get on with life. Like you don't want to, you don't want it to stop you from pursuing your dreams.
yeah.
That was the main point that I'm trying to. And when we did this hike recently, and we filmed the whole thing, and it was such a fantastic adventure. That sort of taught me like I can still do a lot of things, even though the conditions that my body are setting in or something.
Yeah.
It sort of proved to me that I can still do things, and it's like it's more like the effect that it has is more on my mind more than anything than it is actually to my body, which was a really weird thing to realize. And it comes and goes in waves.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody has something that physically can affect them sometimes in whatever it is, like whether you're on the very full end of the spectrum of being very disabled, or maybe you've been injured in the past and you have like an injury from football. And my dad actually, we were talking about how when he used to ride motorcycles a lot, he tore his, it's a long story, but long story short, he was using motorcycles, hanging onto it. It was too heavy, and he tore his bicep muscle, and how that affects him today. So he still has pain from like exerting too much onto it, but he can still do all these things. Like he still goes on with life. It's not like it stops and you just give up, you know. That was my thought, that everything was going so well, you know, and then I had this happen. And why did I let that happen? If I would have done this, I could have changed that. But at the same time, it's like we're human and we adapt to whatever scenario we are given, you know, and we just try to keep on pursuing what we want to do with our lives, I guess, or whatever we find meaning in. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, I heard a great line recently about how, like, I mean, you might as well keep getting older because it beats the alternative. I just thought that was quite funny. So yeah, it's like trying to find meaning recently and still pursuing things that I like doing. Otherwise, it's so boring. I mean, once you get into a routine, Jesus, it just plays with my mind so much. I can't do it. I have to have some variety, you know.
Yeah, I think that's part of the new process for young people now. They want something different that the old people had in their lives. So they want something different, more variety, more things different in their life. maybe less career, stuff like that.
That's changing a lot
Yeah.
recently. I mean, from even my generation to yours, I mean, we've got like a 10-year gap, but it's already changed a lot from when you're in your 30s, I assume. I have friends who also trying to pursue more meaning in what they're doing to create their financial living, and because doing something so monotonous or for someone and not really for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
those things don't really give a lot of meaning unless you find meaning in that, I guess. But
Yeah.
most people don't want to do that now, and that's going to be changing soon. That, you know, there'll be new ways to make money, and that, I mean, you can already make money online with just making a video. So imagine what will be possible in like 20 years from now. It's kind of crazy. Personally, I've been listening to a guy by the name of Alan Watts, who is kind of like a Zen master, guru, teacher. He goes by many different names, and his teachings or his lectures are all archived from 1960s, I think, and he talks about various metaphysics and different analogies about life and different philosophy and ways of thinking and living, and just some of the things I've sort of been very resonant with is about worrying less about those things that you don't have control over. So I've been talking about my connection with worrying about my body and how it's not functioning as it should or as I want it to, but I should just let it naturally find its way. Because another one of his analogies is that you don't really think about when you're opening and closing your hand, you just do it, and that naturally adapts over time, and that's taught over many different generations. So it's really interesting to listen more to what comes to you naturally. Like people say, listen to your gut feeling or your intuition, things like that. So that's something that definitely comes to mind. God, this sun is really warm. Let's sit outside and boil and sweat.
No, it's fine. I like to be browner. Like a brownie.
Yeah, I was mistaken for a Mexican once, but I'll never really understand how that happened. I mean, I'm an Englishman. It's crazy. Where you grew up in Reunion. Maybe start from there again. And just see how that
when
flows.
I grew up in Reunion Island, my childhood was very peaceful and joyful because I lived with my cousins close by, and I could see them every time I wanted, and it was really simple, and we could go to the beach, we could go to the forest, we could go to the mountain, and sometimes we play together, sometimes we go to see our grandmother and granddad, and it was just simple, and life maybe as most of the human would want, and I think this period of my life is within me, and I can connect to it quite easily because it's part of my story, and I want to bring this back in my now reality, and to create something like that, so sort of heaven dream, and to share this with other people. So it's joyful for me.
So it's like this past feeling of freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to bring that more. I mean, I remember when we were doing our little interview for capturing dialogue for our film, you said how you've been entering more of the freedom aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So that's from, that was probably inspired obviously from the hiking. or
because we were
various,
playful
yeah,
and we were just simple as we are in our natural state of
yeah,
mind.
yeah,
So we could just go wherever we want and just, you know, play with that. And it's really important to keep simple and
enjoying the little things, we say in English.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So and the fun aspect of the hike helped me just to connect that simplicity. And I think we miss the fun aspect in our routine life where we have to work, take care of things, and blah blah blah, because we forget the fun aspect of life.
yeah.
So it's important to try to bring this into the normal life. The fun aspect is something we need more, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I don't really understand how many people can. I mean, I guess when you get so sucked into your routine, you're not really having time to think. So it's quite understandable actually, but people don't really take the time to reflect, and that's maybe what's interesting right now with all of this lockdown, shutdown stuff going on in the world right now. Everyone's having time to think and reflect. Like, do I actually find this meaningful and interesting? I mean, it pays the bills, but it's when you break it down and you come more into that simplicity and living in nature or living in various communities and different ways of living, basically. I think that's what can allow for more of that fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think that's pretty much it for our little podcast conversation discussion about various different topics in life and stories. I would say stay tuned for the next installment, next episode. I don't know what we're gonna do
we'll
next.
come back. We have more to say, I think.
We'll come back and we have more to say. That's good. All right. So subscribe, and we will see you next time.